Hello, fellow GMs. It's Friday, October 8th. Half of you probably are already in Texas, starting the drinking early for OU Texas weekend. I'm Matt Marks alongside, the man from Florida, Dylan Singleton. It's week 5. Let's break it down. And Dylan, what do we got today?
Yeah, so our first big thing we're going to go over is last week's matchups. We had some good matchups, a couple, I think mainly one that came down to the wire, but it wasn't even a wire matchup in the end. They looked like they were going to be better matchups early on, and I was kind of shocked. So our first matchup we had was myself and Cal. I ended up beating out Cal. He didn't have a good showing from Dalvin Cook. He didn't have a good showing from Godwin, and Godwin's what he needed on that last night. Deebo Samuel. So I have wide receiver 1 and 3 currently. They really showed out. That was a good win there. Overall, I mean, I picked the wrong QB again, but it was a decent matchup. Cal just got some unluckiness, and Chris Godwin. Hawkinson still got 8 points, but overall, both teams had players perform. No one was a true bust. Kelsey and Cook probably are busts from where they're ranked and what they're expected to score, but nothing huge. So that's a real one big matchup, Matt. What do you think about the Mason and yourselves matchup?
Yeah, well, this one, it was not close. And for Mason, I mean, really a disappointing performance from Tyler Lockett, Tyler Higbee. He only got 7. Mike Williams only had 2 points. The defense got -3. I think really for Mason, it was tough watching, as you said in the group meet, Tyler Bassett and the Buffalo defense combined for 37 points. So I was happy about that. My team performed pretty well. I mean, Kittle and Cooks didn't do much, but I felt pretty good about that performance. And but Mason's new quarterback, Patty Mahomes, 31. I mean, Mason improved on quarterback play instead of having Ryan Tannehill. So good move for Mason moving forward, but it was not a good week 4 for him.
Sad thing for Mason's team is he had 1 player over 20 points and only 3 players total. Well, if you want to count as kicker, 4 players over 10 points. Just an overall bad showing. Kamara didn't look great. Mahomes didn't look great. Kamara had his first game in NFL history without a reception. Just an overall bad day. Our next game was Isaac and Bryce. Isaac's team has steadily been declining. We all came out early on, kind of had to join the train and say, hey, it's a good team to start. But past 3 weeks have not been good for him. James Robinson has a good week, and then no one else really backs it up for him. Russell played good, but as we see going forwards, Russell Wilson may be injured and out for a while. He may be back in. He's never missed that game. But Chris McCaffrey obviously is hurt. Says he's ready to come back, but last 3 held himself out. Who knows what happens there. Bryce's team looked good. Dave Montgomery going forward is out. Adam Thielen and Davante Adams did not have to perform great for his team to perform great. He scored 147 points with a lot of low guys, and it was a good matchup overall. Thought it was going to be closer, but Mike Evans did okay. Jamal Williams really did nothing. Swift is really that lead back, and it wasn't really an RB2 in that game. So really crazy matchup overall. But then we go into Drew and Trevor. Trevor gets his first win of the year. So he's on pace to get 3 wins, I believe, this year. That's a new record for Trevor. Can he keep that pace? Who knows? It was a good matchup there, honestly, but Drew's team just is, as we'll discuss later in this video, is just falling apart day after day. What else do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, good job for Trevor. Someone had to win that game. I mean, we're going to talk more about it, but it was not a good showing at all for Drew. Allen was your high scorer at 20. Diggs had 18, but then Hunter Renfrow at 16. And then no one else really did much from there. For Trevor, it was a great performance from Tyreek. You love those weeks if you're Trevor. And tough that Lane Thomas went out with an injury for that game. He had 0 points, and nothing from his tight end. But Cordell Patterson, 34. Wow. So isn't that a diamond in the rough to start the season?
His consistency makes no sense. Cordell Patterson makes no sense. Everyone's saying it right now. He only had 34 yards and he had 3 touchdowns. And the week before that, he scored 27 points. He is a player that has been in the league, I believe, 8 years, 5 teams, and everyone keeps saying it's his breakout year. At this point, no one thinks that anymore, but he's just showing out. And at this point, you have to start him. He's a must start until he fails you. Their last matchup last week was the Battle of the Connors. Honestly, the carry was Terry McLaurin there and Austin Eckler, really, for Connor Boydston to come out with it. Connor McClain's team overall did not look that bad. He did not get his RB1 performance out of DeAndre Swift. Didn't really get his Baker performance at all. Baker doesn't have a touchdown in that game. They just didn't look good the whole game. But really, it was just a overall well performance from Connor Boydston, and I look forward to continue going forwards.
Yeah, I mean, for Connor, remember he traded Patty Mahomes, but he did get Justin Jefferson in that deal, who got a touchdown and 20 points. But yeah, I mean, Connor's got some pieces. If they all pop off, I mean, he'll be fine. But yeah, with Baker Mayfield too playing through, he's not 100%, and so that's gonna be something to watch for down the road.
Yeah, but so overall that week 4 head-to-head pick'em results. Matt went 2-3, Cal went 3-2, myself went 4-1. That leaves us now at overall results. Matt is 7-13, Cal is 7-13, myself I am 6-14. We are slowly working our way back to 500. I do not believe any of us will make it back there. I'm crawling back into it after 2 wins through 2 weeks, but we'll see what's going forward with that. Next, we really have our power rankings. It might be an odd-looking overlay here, but we'll go over the analyst rankings first. Actually, maybe I can do this. Let's see if this works. I think everyone, though, in the league basically has a pretty good consensus on how they're feeling going into this. So let's go here, and I'll pull up the analyst rankings. There we go. So as you can see ahead, all 3 of us have Matt ranked 1 and Drew ranked at the bottom. Isaac and Trevor really on the bottom for both of us, and Connor Boydston's at the second for us. Matt, fill in like how you feel about those middle teams right now.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of teams right now that are 2-2. 4 teams right now: Connor, Dylan, Bryce, and Mason. A lot of consistency in you and I's power rankings. Dylan, Caleb, a little different. The middle teams, though, right now, I mean, again, it's just I based mine pretty much off of records. I did look at points scored a little bit, but basically looking at the teams, and it's really close right now. I mean, again, it's still early in the season, but yeah, everyone's pretty much just right there. It's going to take a couple more weeks to get more discrepancy and differentials against other teams. But yeah, I mean, everyone's just kind of right there. And I based it off of records and looked at points scored. And that's how I came up with my list right there. And I know we're similar.
And I think myself, as you can see, our only change really is we have myself and Cal flipped. Obviously, a little bit of bias there, but also I'm kind of confident in my team, so it gives me good hope. You have yourself ranked at 1 as well as ourselves. Isaac and Drew and Trevor in that bottom 3. I think that's pretty much consensus. The real surprising factor to me is that Mason's ranked 3rd on Cal's chart there. Don't really know what to say from that, but on both our chart, Mason is ranked 7th. So we'll see how that has going forwards. He's on a 2-game slide this week. We'll go into that in a minute. He plays Connor Boydston. But then we have our overall rankings. This is based on those rankings that not really sites. I use this purely on those expectation rankings we had and going in also on who has QB1s, RB1s, RB2s, wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, which I will go into more depth next week on that, on how everyone lines up right now. And that obviously you may not feel like guys in RB3, but if he's performed with RB3 through 5 weeks, he's going to be an RB3. So his rankings look like this. We have Matt at 1st. Matt preseason was ranked 10th. If you look at the guy who was preseason ranked 2nd, Isaac is now in 9th. But honestly, this lines up pretty well with us. Trevor, Isaac, and Drew at the bottom. Matt's up there towards the top. Caleb, Connor, Dylan. Like, honestly, this lines up with our personal power rankings a good bit. And I think outside of Matt and Trevor and Isaac and Drew, those middle are lined up pretty equally like we discussed. And so I like it. I like it going forward. I think it's a good competitive league this year. We'll see if Matt continues his undefeated streak as we look into these head-to-head matchups. So this first head-to-head matchup, Matt, for this coming up week, why don't you go over how you feel about Drew against myself?
Yeah, so we've got the advantage right now, since we've already had a Thursday night game, to kind of maybe help a little bit with some of our predictions. But just breaking down what we've seen already, obviously ESPN's projections have you winning this matchup, Dylan, and I would agree with them. Even though a 13-point spread is kind of close, but at the same time, not really. What can help Drew get back into this and give him his only shot is if Allen and Diggs really connect well on Sunday. I look at these matchups. Matt Stafford only having 16. That's not bad, but he could have done a lot better. Henderson getting you 16 as well. Cooper Kupp, 16 across the board is really good. Alex Collins only getting 9. Higbee getting saved by a touchdown. Otherwise, that would have been a disastrous performance. I just don't have confidence at all in Drew's team. It is going to come down to Allen and Diggs. They're going to have to pop off, like, not just like 15 points. It's going to need to be a really explosive performance because McKissick, Marvin Jones, and Hunter Renfrow, that's not a trio that's like, oh, I'm so, wow, I'm scared of that. Deebo Samuel and Kelsey on your end, Dylan, going to be great. And it looks like, just based on games real quickly, that you will have, going into last matches for both of you, it will come down to that Buffalo KC game with you having Kelsey, and then for Drew, Allen, and Diggs. So watching that game, obviously, Dylan, you may have to do a little watching. I don't think you're going to be nervous going into Sunday night, but that's just going to be that Diggs and Allen Diggs Allen combo is going to be the one that's going to save Drew. Otherwise, he's going to continue his losing streak to start the season.
And as we just saw, myself, Matt, and Caleb all chose myself to win this game as well. Not much to say. Drew's ranked bottom of the tier, bottom of the league. If he gets a win, cool. I think I've lost the bottom-ranked teams with Trevor both years, has beaten the champion, I believe, whether it was myself or Bryce past years. Our next matchup then is Matt versus Bryce. As we saw last night, DK had a great output. Also, just a note real quick, Robert Woods, 27 points on Matt's bench. I don't think anyone knocks Matt for sitting Robert Woods. That's a good sit this week. If they're not like saying, "Oh, you made a bad mistake." Robert Woods deserved to sit. Going into this matchup, though, we have these 3 games picked out, and I picked mine first. Cal also threw his first out there. I think Matt probably already was choosing Bryce's matchup as well. So this wasn't based on last night at all. But below, Matt and Cal both chose Bryce, and I chose Matt. I like Matt's team a lot going forwards, and he's continuously moved my ranks. The only concern I really have is that Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, and A.J. Brown, those 3, that trio can be deadly. And if Saquon continues to play Saquon the way he has the past 2 weeks, Bryce might run away with this pretty far. But we got the news that Julio Jones is out officially Sunday. That is I do not believe anyone – is anyone in your game playing the early window? No, so no one is playing the early window Atlanta Jets game, but – I still like Matt's team this week, but it's just I think it's very easy for Bryce to run away with this if these guys perform. But we'll see going forwards, and that's what the picks are below. Matt, how do you feel about this next matchup between Mason and Connor Boydston then?
Yeah, look at those ESPN projections right there. You can't get any closer than that. This matchup, I still, as you see below, we've all picked Connor Boydston to win this one. Again, his team on paper is good, and his team performed well last week. Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler. He's got Tom Brady, who will have a better performance against Miami. Keenan Allen, Dalton Schultz, man, him and Dak are having a great connection right there. I don't know about that Miami defense, though, going against Tom Brady. But on the other side for Mason, Patty Mahomes, that'll be a fun game Sunday night. He got Mark Andrews in a trade with Drew. We saw a Thursday night right before the game trade that landed Mark Andrews on Mason's team. What will CeeDee Lamb do? He's got to have a better game than last week, right? The New England defense playing against Houston, they got shut out last week. There's some positives there. This could be very close, but I am going to lean towards Connor Boydston. I think he's going to have just a little bit too much power for Mason to handle this week.
Yeah, but I also, just real quick before I move on to the next match with Trevor and Caleb, Cleveland's defense has been pretty locked down this year, and you have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen going off against each other. I think it's going to be one receiver out of that comes out with good points, one without him. And so I don't know how it's going to finish. I like Mason's lineup, I want to say, but I think all of us, like you just said, we lean Connor Boydston this week. It may not be a big win, but we're leaning that way. That next matchup is between Trevor, hot off his first victory. Cal, hot off his first loss. Does that mean this is going to be primetime TV matchups? I do not know, but we do have Cordero Patterson playing a 8:30 a.m. game. Odds anyone watches that game are 0, but it will be okay if we do. We'll probably wake up to a nice score line of 3-0 or 45-43, somewhere in that range. As you can see, Kyle Pitts is on Trevor's lineup this week. We'll see what happens with that. Dalvin Cook is injured, possibly. I do not really see him sitting out this game, but there's a lot of mix-ups here. And as we can see below, it's Caleb, and I chose Trevor to win. I do like this matchup a lot. I just think Tyreek, after last week's performance, he isn't at 47 points again, I don't think. probably in that 20, 30 range, maybe 15 to 20 like Cooper Kupp this week, somewhere in there. I think Kyle Pitts is a good week this week. Jamar Chase probably is a good week. It was really tough for me to pick, but I like Trevor's team ultimately going into this. I can't see Laviska Shenault and Emmanuel Sanders being wide receiver twos this week, really. And Najee, as well as he's been, I think Pittsburgh is what, three total touchdowns this year? Maybe 2 or something like that.
I'm not sure.
It's very low. And I like Dak, but the Giants defense has always been that little stingy team, and they played a pretty good game last week. So overall, I'm taking Trevor here, even though the projection goes towards Cal. Anything more on that for you, Matt?
Well, I think I'd have to disagree about Dak. I think Dak he's played exceptionally well, and no matter the defense, I think he will score big points for Caleb this week.
All right, and then last matchup, what do you have on Isaac and Connor McClain?
Yeah, well, let's start off with the sad news first. Connor's kicker has as many points as Isaac's quarterback. Now, of course, Russell Wilson, yes, got injured in the third quarter, was not back in the game. But that's a major problem. And it gets worse with the news today of McCaffrey being doubtful. Practice went well, but I think based on this, we're seeing doubtful. I don't think he's playing because Matt Rule wants to take it, be precautionary. You want to have him for the whole season. You don't need to rush him back if you got to wait another week. So he's in trouble. Isaac very much is in trouble. And that projection, as you can see, if he's got to put someone else in because he's projected to lose by 35. This is just a disastrous thing right now for Isaac's team, and it's going to continue to get worse at least for another week. I don't care that he's got Robinson, Hopkins, Fant, Evans, guys that could, get a touchdown or two, pop off. It's not going to be enough. I lean very much towards Connor's team. Zeke is looking better in form, even though we got a questionable tag right now, but should be fine. Tannehill has not looked good. So we saw Baker Mayfield. He's now going with Tannehill. But you know what? Maybe, Tannehill's going against who? Jacksonville? I think he should do pretty well in this game. It's not going to cost him. He's got Jefferson, not really a big fan of Mooney, even though I think Mooney's done okay. Darren Waller, hopefully we'll have a better game for him. I think it's going to lean Connor because I know Isaac's team is just seriously in trouble right now.
Yeah, and we saw last week Connor McClain had Sam Darnold picked up. Ended up as QB 1 or 2, I believe. He dropped him and started. Yep. Was it Baker last week?
He started, and that's a mistake. And I know we all love Baker. Connor's a Panthers fan. So a big mistake. I think one he regrets because you start anybody but Baker. And I think I'd have to go look at the points again. But had he started Darnold, would he have beaten Connor Boydston last week? Would he have had enough? I have to go back and look. I'm not sure.
But, not only that, but also on top of that, Sam Darnold's still not on his roster. Does he not trust him? Did he get dropped? Is he? I believe he's still on our waivers. Is he not?
He's out. I think he's out there. I don't think anybody's picked him up. If I'm Isaac, I would pick him up.
Yeah, and so I just see that as a weird situation for him. Zeke may be back. He got him that trade earlier on. Aaron Jones against the Bengals, okay, and they're going to be beat up with Joe Mixon. DeAndre Swift should have a bounce-back game. He had a light week last week. Obviously, he's probably a little hurt, so a little messed up there.
Hey, correction I want to make before, because I'm sure everyone's like, wait a minute. Connor Boydston has Sam Darnold, okay? So Connor Boydston has Sam Darnold on his bench as a backup to Tom Brady.
All right, and that could be going forwards a great pickup in real life. No, but as we can see, I think all of us just have to lean Connor McClain here, especially with that 9-point game out of Matt Gay to take a near lead over Russell Wilson. And going forwards, we'll see how that affects Russell Wilson the same way. He's got Russell and he's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got James. He's just got issues. I don't think Isaac is necessarily the Jets because he has good players but I also don't think he's necessarily any good GM at the current moment with the handling of how he's handling his team's injury situations. He should probably find some depth here maybe because I don't really trust his bench. And as we all seen, we have him power ranked right there around that 9-8 range, I think, for both of us. After starting out 1-0, and now has the potential to drop to 1-4 and could be that bottom 2 teams with Drew. Drew comes out the win somehow. But I'll just flip this standings real quick where we're at. I do believe Matt is the only 4-0 team, 2-3-1 teams with Cal and Mason. No, Cal and Connor.
Yep. The Boydston brothers, 3-1.
Yep. And then we have myself at 2-2. As you can see, the Lizard Kings, that division is probably a little bit stronger at the current moment. We do have Isaac, Drew, and a up and down Mason team with a possibility Bryce team currently. Looking at these points for, Matt is outscoring the league. I'm right there in second. Points allowed. The sad thing is Drew has the most points scored against him as well. So even if you wanted to get a win, it's not really going to look well. But going forward in this, the Lizard Kings could produce 5 of the 6 if it comes down to it enough outside of maybe Trevor. But just to reiterate, as it was voted on the end of last year, I don't know if any of you guys remember, but the top, so we have the division winners get their first round bye. That was clear still. The next 3 are still overall records. We voted on it at the end of last year in that big Google sheet we sent out, though. The 6th seed, no matter the record, is the most points for scored. So if someone maybe has a 5 and like I'm just gonna say random numbers, 5-5 record, and someone has a 4-6 record, but the 4-6 has scored 200 more points than the 5-5 record, they will be that 6th seed. And this just to clarify, so people aren't getting upset later on in the season. That's what it's come down to. That was what the voting went down to. I think it was a favor 7-3. So we'll see that going forwards. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, back on those, still 2 things. Back on the standings, I hate to do this to you, Dylan. If you click on points for, I think you're actually 3rd. Connor McLean has you beat by.
Oh, yes, you're right. 3rd. Sorry.
Yep. So I just want to clarify that. But a reminder on the league, because, people are like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, that's not right. Well, we voted on it. And then reminder that the bottom 4. So Drew right now may be thinking, okay, I'm going to have to do the punishment. Well, that's not the case. Out of the bottom 4 for the 3 weeks of the playoffs, we're going to take lowest scoring team. So it doesn't always come down to record. So again, you don't want to be the bottom 4 because you're in the consolation and there's that risk. But if Drew doesn't win a game this year, but somehow can manage to draw some good luck and score more points than someone else in the consolation, he may not have to do it, right? So I just want to clarify that again, that the bottom loser, the loser that's going to have to do the punishment, it won't be based on record. It will be on those 3 weeks of the playoffs, the lowest scoring total points of those 3 weeks. So I just want to put that out there again before someone starts getting upset down the road.
And it will only be that one team. It works better that way.
One team.
And as we discussed, I believe it is the 24-hour Waffle House challenge this year, correct?
I think that is what we've got, but we can clarify that.
It may change. If it changes somehow and we clarify something else, I believe with the way different money has worked out in my funding, if it somehow changed to a payment, I would be covering that because of the way the funding has worked out with the trivia tournament and everything like that. So there's no worries on that. But it should still be the Waffle House challenge as far as I know. But I really have nothing else. Anything else from you, Matt?
Well, I think I have to say one more time. Looking at my team, I was shocked that for the 3rd straight week, I've had the highest scoring team. I'm still shocked. This has been a weird season. I'm shocked with the results.
And I think Matt's not going to say it, but Matt deserves a brag here. And Matt's not going to brag, but everyone looked down upon his team. They said he's the last ranked team. I'm literally the only person who ranked him at 6th, which is pretty low as well for his team. But overall, it's been pretty straightforward. I didn't like Isaac's team, and I like Connor Boydston's team. That's turned out pretty well. A lot of power rankings have shifted up, but we'll see heading into these next few weeks. We got a big week coming up here. I believe our home and home is 3 weeks out.
Yes, the week 9 and 10, I believe.
Yeah, week 9 and 10, home and home coming up. Me and Matt will probably come up with something like usual I could do for basketball or baseball or anything like that for the home and homes. So look forward to that, and we'll see you guys next time.